Welcome to the week on Flow Rope. So this week is either going to be a really fun one for you, or it may be somewhat frustrating. And a lot of that depends on the attitude you take with you to learning how to flow the rope. So this can be somewhat challenging for some people. You want to look at the flow rope as a teacher, and if you have movement patterns that are default, that are ingrained, that are holding you back in running, the flow rope is going to teach that to you. And when you end up like, I can't get these swings done right, it can be super frustrating. But I'm going to teach you how to do it all step by step this week. So just pay attention to these videos. I encourage you to breathe low and slow through your nose, laugh at yourself when you screw something up, and just like really relax and let your body flow into these movements. And that's how you're going to get the most out of this flow rope module. So first of all, about the flow rope, you should have your rope by now. And ideally, we talked about this before, but it should be a rope that is heavy enough that when you start to swing it around, you can do so with momentum. And the other thing that you want to be concerned about is the length of the rope. So depending on how tall you are, what you might want to do, and you see I did it here with my rope, is I tied an extra knot in both ends. And that was because what you want for the length of the rope is one where if you're holding it right at like 90 degrees elbow bend and relaxing your hands, that it just sort of barely touches the ground. So if it's dragging on the ground really long here, then tie the knot here. Or if you're tall and you don't have to tie the knot, then like that's fine too. So let's talk about what we're trying to get out of these rope swings. I'm going to teach you 3 specific types of swings this week. Note that there are more. If you love flowing the rope, if you get into it this week and you're like, this is really cool, you could go to YouTube and you could find lots of other types of swings. And look, they're all beneficial in their own way. What we're doing here is we're trying to use the flow rope to help us improve our movement patterns so that we can run better. And so the 3 that I'm going to teach you here are more specific in the way that they will enhance your running. And just know that there's benefits to other ones. If you want to learn those, have at it. Master these 3 first. So what are we trying to achieve here? We're trying, in a big picture sense, to get you to learn to move from the inside out. So with all of these swings, think about using the rope like you're going to dance with the rope. So we want to learn to move from the center out. I'm using my hips to help me move. You're going to animate your spine. So what we want to avoid is running in this stiff way where our spine isn't really moving, our hips aren't really moving, and the rope can really teach us how to do that. So a benefit of the rope: animate your spine, learn how to get it to move where you're like, oh, I'm letting go of tension here, really moving easily. Because of the way that the rope flows with momentum, when you do it a lot, you learn how to move with more, we'll call it smoothness. So you'll just smooth out a lot of your movement patterns. So if you feel like, or if you've seen yourself running and it looks like there's a jerk somewhere, or it just doesn't look as like smooth and rhythmic as you've seen some other runners look, or how maybe you want to look, know that the flow rope can really help you smooth out those movement patterns. One thing that we're doing with the flow rope when we start swinging it around is you're starting to really repattern your fascia. And so if you think about fascia as this lining of all of your organs and your muscles, what happens to a lot of us is because of this, our lifestyles and the way that we sit a lot, is that we tend to get short and tight in the front. And so we've talked about this before. My shoulders are kind of rolled in, and my if my rib cage is kind of dumped forward, my hips are tight like this. And so it's like if I have this like a covering of all my muscles here that's pulling me down and in, reversing that is going to take some time. And the best way to do that is to be doing the opposite of the movement that you're trying to reverse. So if much of the time you find yourself in this closed position in the front, then what you want to be bringing your awareness to is, what things can I do that open me up in the front? And the flow rope essentially forces that, which it doesn't totally force it, but you can do it in a way where you really learn how to open yourself up. And one thing that I noticed, that the more frequently I was practicing the flow rope, the easier it felt like it was to get opened up. And so that's why we're bringing this in. And if you're wondering, how does this relate to running? It's because you're learning to use your hips, you're learning to animate your spine, you're going to improve your posture by default, and you're opening up this whole like front side fascial chain so that you can achieve this shape of running, which is the chest up, relaxed posture. So that's what we're going for this week. Next video, we're going to start swinging the rope.